10 Untangling Hygiene Practices in the Wild West. Can you believe it? Forget fancy bathrooms and toilet paper. Imagine a world where rivers were your face wash, corn cobs your bathroom tissue, and whiskey your medicine cabinet. That was the reality of hygiene in the Wild West. Number 1. River water facials. The image of the Wild West often conjures up visions of dusty trails, rugged cowboys, and saloons filled with boisterous laughter. However, beneath the adventurous veneer lay a reality far removed from the romanticized narratives, a world where basic hygiene was a constant struggle. For women in the 1800s, Wild West, maintaining even a semblance of cleanliness required ingenuity, resourcefulness, and a healthy dose of acceptance. Imagine yourself stepping into the worn leather boots of a pioneer woman. The sun rises, painting the vast expanse of the prairie in hues of orange and gold, but your day begins not with a steaming cup of coffee and a hot shower, but with a trip to the nearest river or stream. Forget your porcelain sink and fluffy towels. Your bathroom is the great outdoors, and your cleanser is the cool, clear water flowing from the heart of the land. These women understood the importance of cleanliness, even amidst the harsh realities of frontier life. They recognized that the relentless dust and grime, coupled with the scorching sun and relentless wind, could take a toll on their skin. Thus, the river became their daily sanctuary, a place to refresh and rejuvenate, to fight the elements and preserve a sense of dignity. Picture them at the water's edge, their faces tilted towards the sky as they cupped the life-giving liquid in their hands. They splashed the cool water onto their faces, gently rubbing away the accumulated dust and sweat. A moment of solace amidst the demands of a life lived on the edge of civilization. However, the idyllic image of a peaceful riverside ritual is tempered by the realities of the time. Privacy was a rare commodity in a world where settlements were small and resources were shared. Women often had to perform their ablutions in the presence of others, sacrificing personal comfort for the necessity of cleanliness. Moreover, full baths were a luxury reserved for special occasions or when circumstances allowed for a more secluded dip in a river or creek. The simple act of washing one's face with river water speaks volumes about the resilience and adaptability of women in the Wild West. They embraced the resources available to them, transforming a basic necessity into a moment of self-care and preservation. The river became more than just a source of water. It was a symbol of resilience, a reminder of their connection to the land, and a testament to their ability to find beauty even in the harshest environments. Furthermore, this practice sheds light on the broader sanitation challenges faced by those who braved the untamed West. Access to clean water was not always guaranteed, and the lack of proper sanitation facilities posed significant health risks. Waterborne diseases were a constant threat, and simple infections could quickly escalate into life-threatening situations. The story of river water facials is a reminder that the Wild West was not just a land of adventure and opportunity, but also a place of hardship and constant struggle. By understanding the daily routines and challenges faced by the women of this era, we gain a deeper appreciation for their strength, ingenuity, and determination. Their story is a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity, a spirit that thrives even in the face of adversity. Number 2. Outhouses, the unpleasant reality. The Wild West, often romanticized as a land of rugged individualism and daring adventures, also harbored a less glamorous side, one characterized by a constant battle against the elements and the challenges of basic survival. While Hollywood often focuses on gunslinging cowboys and saloon brawls, the reality of daily life in the 1800s West was far less glamorous, particularly when it came to the humble outhouse. Forget the modern convenience of indoor plumbing and climate-controlled bathrooms. For the pioneers and settlers who carved out a living in the untamed West, the outhouse was an unavoidable fixture of daily life. This simple, unassuming structure, typically a small wooden shed positioned a discrete distance from the main dwelling, served as the primary facility for relieving oneself. Stepping into an outhouse was an experience that assaulted the senses. The air hung thick with the pungent odor of human waste, a constant reminder of the outhouse's primary function. Flies buzzed incessantly, drawn to the unsanitary conditions, while other insects lurked in the shadows, adding to the overall sense of discomfort. The lack of modern amenities extended beyond the absence of flushing toilets and running water. Toilet paper, a staple in today's bathrooms, was a luxury unavailable to most in the early days of the West. Settlers had to resort to creative alternatives, using materials readily available in their surroundings. Leaves, corn cobs, and even clumps of grass served as makeshift toilet paper, offering a far less comfortable and hygienic experience. The outhouse experience was not just unpleasant, it posed significant health risks. The lack of proper sanitation contributed to the spread of diseases, particularly those transmitted through fecal matter. Water sources could easily become contaminated, leading to outbreaks of illnesses like cholera and typhoid fever. Beyond the physical discomfort and health hazards, the outhouse also represented a challenge to personal privacy and dignity. Located outdoors, and often shared by multiple individuals, the outhouse offered little in the way of seclusion. The lack of privacy was particularly challenging for women, who had to navigate the social norms of the time while attending to their basic needs. Despite its unpleasantness, the outhouse was an essential part of life in the Wild West. It served as a constant reminder of the hardships faced by those who ventured into the frontier, highlighting the stark contrast between the romanticized image of the West and the reality of daily life. By understanding the challenges posed by even the most basic necessities, we gain a deeper appreciation for the resilience and adaptability of the pioneers who built a life in the untamed West. The outhouse, a symbol of both necessity and discomfort, stands as a testament to their determination to overcome adversity and build a future in a land that demanded resourcefulness and grit. Number 3. Lysol, a risky solution. The Wild West, with its rugged landscapes and untamed spirit, often evokes images of adventure and freedom. But behind the romanticized facade lay a reality where access to proper health care was limited, and societal norms often shrouded personal health issues in secrecy. In this environment, misinformation and desperation could lead to dangerous practices, as evidenced by the shocking misuse of Lysol. Lysol, a product initially marketed as a disinfectant and cleaning agent, found its way into the most private aspects of women's lives in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. In an era when open discussions about reproductive health were taboo, women facing various feminine health issues, including yeast infections and sexually transmitted infections, turned to Lysol as a desperate solution. Driven by misleading advertisements that touted Lysol's germ-killing properties and societal pressures to maintain a facade of feminine hygiene, women douched with Lysol, hoping to alleviate discomfort and address issues they couldn't openly discuss with doctors or even among themselves. Tragically, this practice was not only ineffective, but also incredibly dangerous. Lysol, in its original formulation, contained harsh chemicals like cresol and phenol, which are highly toxic and can cause severe irritation, burns, and even poisoning when used internally. In some cases, Lysol douching led to infertility, long-term health complications, and even death. The misuse of Lysol highlights several crucial aspects of life in the Wild West: limited access to health care and information. The vast distances and sparse population of the West meant that access to qualified doctors and reliable medical information was often limited. Women, particularly those in rural areas, had to rely on their own knowledge and resources, often leading to dangerous self-treatment practices. Societal stigma and silence surrounding women's health. Open discussions about reproductive and sexual health were considered taboo in the Victorian era, leaving women to grapple with their health concerns in isolation and without proper guidance. This silence created a breeding ground for misinformation and dangerous self-treatment methods. The power of advertising and marketing. Lysol's marketing campaigns played a significant role in promoting the product's supposed benefits for feminine hygiene, often using vague language and appealing to women's anxieties about cleanliness and social acceptability. This highlights the dangers of unregulated advertising and the importance of critical thinking when evaluating product claims. The story of Lysol's misuse in the Wild West serves as a stark reminder of the dark side of a seemingly glamorous era. It underscores the importance of access to accurate information, open communication about health issues, and the critical evaluation of marketing claims. It also serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of self-treatment and the potential consequences of relying on misinformation in the absence of reliable medical guidance. What surprised you the most about hygiene practices in the Wild West? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Number 4. Saloon hygiene, or lack thereof. The Wild West Saloon, a place of legendary tales where cowboys gathered to gamble, drink, and swap stories after a long day on the trail. Hollywood often paints a romanticized picture of these establishments, filled with raucous laughter, swinging saloon doors, and the clinking of glasses. However, beneath the veneer of adventure and camaraderie lurked a less glamorous reality, a world where hygiene was an afterthought and sanitation standards were practically non-existent. Imagine stepping into a typical Wild West saloon. The air hangs thick with the smell of stale beer, cheap tobacco, and unwashed bodies. The dimly lit space is crowded with patrons from all walks of life, their voices a cacophony of shouts, laughter, and drunken arguments. As you approach the bar, you're greeted by the sight of a seemingly endless row of bottles filled with a variety of liquors. But beware, for not all that glitters is gold in the Wild West Saloon. Many establishments served a notorious concoction known as rotgut whiskey. This potent brew, often made from a mixture of low-quality alcohol, burnt sugar, and other questionable ingredients, was notorious for its harsh taste and unpredictable effects. Drinking rotgut could leave you with a splitting headache, an upset stomach, or even worse. As you lean against the bar, you might notice a towel hanging conveniently within reach. Its purpose, ostensibly, is to provide patrons with a way to wipe their beer-soaked beards or spilled drinks. But beneath this seemingly innocuous facade lies a hidden danger. These communal towels, rarely washed and used by countless individuals, became breeding grounds for bacteria and germs. Each wipe could potentially transfer a host of unseen pathogens, spreading illness and infection among the saloon's patrons. The lack of hygiene in Wild West saloons reflected the broader sanitation challenges of the era. Access to clean water and proper sanitation facilities was limited, particularly in remote frontier towns. This, combined with a general lack of awareness about the importance of hygiene, created an environment where germs and diseases could thrive. The story of saloon hygiene, or lack thereof, offers a sobering reminder that the Wild West was not all glamour and adventure. It was a time when basic necessities like clean water and sanitation were often scarce, and where the pursuit of pleasure and profit sometimes came at the expense of public health. By understanding the less savory aspects of this era, we gain a more complete and nuanced understanding of the challenges faced by those who lived and worked in the Wild West. Number 5. Bathwater sharing. The Wild West, a land of vast open spaces and rugged individualism, often conjures images of cowboys riding off into the sunset and pioneers forging new lives on the frontier. But beyond the adventurous facade lay a reality where even the simplest comforts, like a warm bath, were often out of reach for most people. Imagine a time when running water and indoor plumbing were considered luxuries reserved for the wealthy. For the average family in the Wild West, bathing was a laborious and infrequent affair. The process involved hauling water from a well or nearby river, heating it over a fire, and filling a tub, if you were fortunate enough to own one. The scarcity of bathtubs in the early days of the West meant that many families had to make do without. Even with the advent of mail-order catalogs in the late 19th century, which made bathtubs more accessible, the cost remained prohibitive for most. A Sears catalog tub, for example, would have set you back nearly $800 in today's money, a significant investment for families struggling to make ends meet. In households that did manage to acquire a bathtub, the precious bathwater was often shared among family members. This practice, while perhaps not appealing by today's standards, was a practical solution to the challenges of limited resources and the labor-intensive nature of bath time. The tradition of the Saturday night bath emerged as a way for families to make the most of their limited bathing opportunities. Everyone wanted to be clean and presentable for Sunday church services, so they would take turns bathing in the same tub of water, typically starting with the father and ending with the youngest child. While the thought of sharing bathwater might seem unhygienic to us today, it's important to remember that standards of cleanliness were different in the 19th century. People were accustomed to living with less frequent bathing and different hygiene practices than we are today. The practice of sharing bathwater highlights the resourcefulness and adaptability of families in the Wild West. They made the most of what they had, finding ways to maintain a level of cleanliness and hygiene despite the challenges they faced. The story of bathwater sharing also provides a glimpse into the evolution of hygiene practices over time. As technology advanced and living standards improved, access to running water and indoor plumbing became more widespread, leading to a shift in bathing habits and a greater emphasis on personal hygiene. The next time you enjoy a long, hot shower or bath, take a moment to appreciate the conveniences we often take for granted, and remember the families of the Wild West who, despite limited resources, found ways to stay clean and maintain a sense of dignity in a challenging environment. Number 6. Bug-Infested Beds. When we think of the Wild West, images of cowboys, saloons, and gunfights often come to mind. However, the reality of daily life for many pioneers and settlers was far less glamorous, especially when it came to the simple act of getting a good night's sleep. Forget plush mattresses and cozy comforters. For many in the 19th century West, the bed was a simple pile of straw or hay, often teeming with unwelcome guests. Imagine yourself stepping into a rustic cabin after a long day on the trail. The sun has set, casting long shadows across the rough-hewn walls. You're exhausted and ready for a well-deserved rest, but the bed awaiting you is far from inviting. Instead of a raised bed frame with a soft mattress, you find a mound of straw or hay piled directly on the floor. While it might offer a slight cushion compared to the hard-packed earth, comfort is hardly a priority. The main purpose of this makeshift bed is to provide a barrier between your weary body and the cold, damp ground. However, this simple bedding solution came with a significant drawback: bugs. Straw and hay, being natural materials, were ideal habitats for a variety of insects and critters. Fleas, lice, bed bugs, and other creepy crawlies found refuge within the straw, turning your bed into an all-you-can-eat buffet and a breeding ground for unwanted guests. Imagine trying to fall asleep with the constant rustling of insects in your bedding and the irritating sensation of bites on your skin. Restful sleep was a luxury that many in the Wild West could only dream of. The prevalence of bug-infested beds in the Wild West highlights the challenges of maintaining hygiene and sanitation in a frontier environment. Resources were limited, and people often had to make do with what they could find or create from natural materials. The story of these bug-ridden beds serves as a reminder that the Wild West was not just a land of adventure and opportunity, but also a place of hardship and discomfort. Even the most basic necessities, like a comfortable and pest-free bed, were often out of reach for many. By understanding the challenges faced by those who lived in the Wild West, we gain a deeper appreciation for their resilience and adaptability. If you could travel back in time to the Wild West, what hygiene item would you bring with you, and why? Number 7. Infrequent showers and the consequences. While we might take daily showers for granted, for the pioneers and cowboys of the 19th century, bathing was an infrequent and often challenging affair. Surprisingly, this wasn't just due to a lack of resources or convenience. There was a prevailing belief at the time that frequent bathing could actually be detrimental to one's health. People believed that excessive washing could weaken the body's natural defenses, making it more susceptible to illness by opening up the pores to germs and disease. However, the primary reason for infrequent bathing was the scarcity of clean water. In the vast and arid landscapes of the West, finding a reliable source of clean water for drinking, let alone bathing, could be a daunting task. Pioneers and settlers often had to make do with limited water supplies, prioritizing drinking and cooking over personal hygiene. This reluctance to bathe frequently, combined with the harsh conditions of the Wild West, led to some rather unpleasant consequences. Cowboys, who often wore the same clothes for days or even weeks on end, were particularly susceptible to fungal infections. The combination of sweat, dirt, and infrequent washing created an ideal environment for these infections to thrive, leading to skin irritations, rashes, and other uncomfortable conditions. Imagine the plight of a cowboy after weeks on the trail, his clothes caked in dust and grime, his body covered in sweat and dirt. The lack of regular bathing not only led to physical discomfort, but also contributed to the spread of disease and infection. The story of infrequent showers in the Wild West highlights the challenges of maintaining hygiene in a frontier environment. It also sheds light on the evolving understanding of health and hygiene practices over time. As scientific knowledge advanced and access to resources improved, people began to recognize the importance of regular bathing in preventing disease and promoting overall health. Number 8. Creative toilet paper alternatives. Forget the convenience of soft, readily available toilet paper. For those who braved the frontier in the 19th century, bathroom necessities were a matter of improvisation and resourcefulness. Imagine yourself stepping into an outhouse in the Wild West. The air hangs heavy with the smell of, well, you get the picture. But as you reach for the toilet paper, you realize there isn't any. In the early days of the West, toilet paper as we know it simply didn't exist. So, what did people use? Well, they had to get creative. Corn cobs, one of the most common and readily available alternatives, was the humble corn cob. After removing the kernels, the cob's rough texture made it a somewhat functional, if not entirely comfortable, substitute for toilet paper. Nature provided another readily available option: leaves. Large, soft leaves from certain plants were used as a natural and biodegradable alternative. Newspapers and catalogs. As paper became more common, old newspapers and catalogs found a second life in the outhouse. People would tear pages into smaller pieces to use for cleaning up. Joseph Gaiety's medicated paper. In 1857, Joseph Gaiety introduced the first commercially available toilet paper in the United States. However, his medicated paper was sold as individual sheets, not in rolls, and it was relatively expensive. Roll-style toilet paper. It wasn't until the 1890s the toilet paper in roll form, along with the toilet paper holder, became available. However, widespread adoption of this modern convenience didn't truly take place until the 1920s. The story of toilet paper alternatives in the Wild West highlights the ingenuity and adaptability of those who lived on the frontier. They faced challenges that we can hardly imagine today, and found creative solutions using the resources available to them. Number 9. Unconventional medicines. The Wild West, often romanticized as a land of adventure and freedom, also harbored a harsh reality where disease and injury were commonplace. Limited access to health care and a lack of understanding about germs and sanitation created a challenging environment for those who braved the frontier. In this context, pioneers and settlers often turned to unconventional medicines and remedies to treat their ailments. Imagine a cowboy with a throbbing toothache. His options for relief are limited, and a visit to a dentist is likely out of the question. So, he reaches for a bottle of toothache drops, a popular remedy in the 1880s. But these aren't your ordinary toothache drops. They contain a surprising ingredient: cocaine. Yes, you heard that right. Cocaine, now recognized as a highly addictive and dangerous drug, was once a common ingredient in over-the-counter medications, including toothache drops. Its numbing properties provided temporary relief from dental pain, offering a welcome respite in a time when dental care was rudimentary at best. Cocaine wasn't the only unconventional medicine used in the Wild West. Other remedies included laudanum. This opium-based tincture was used to treat a variety of ailments, from pain and coughs to diarrhea and insomnia. However, its highly addictive nature often led to dependence and other serious health problems. Mercury. This toxic metal was used to treat syphilis and other infections. However, its side effects could be severe, including neurological damage and even death. Arsenic. Believe it or not, arsenic was used as a tonic and a treatment for various illnesses. However, its highly poisonous nature made it a dangerous remedy. Aspirin. This now common pain reliever was first synthesized in the late 19th century and quickly gained popularity as a safer alternative to other pain-relieving drugs. The use of these unconventional medicines highlights the desperation and limited options available to those living in the Wild West. In a world where disease was rampant and access to qualified medical care was scarce, people often turned to whatever remedies they could find, regardless of their potential risks. The story of these medicines also underscores the importance of scientific advancements in medicine and the development of safer and more effective treatments. The next time you reach for a bottle of aspirin, take a moment to appreciate the progress we've made in understanding the human body and developing treatments that improve our health and well-being. Number 10. Whiskey as a meal and a cure-all. The Wild West, often portrayed as a land of hearty meals and campfire feasts, also harbored a reality where food was scarce and diets were often monotonous. For pioneers and cowboys on the move, access to fresh ingredients and proper cooking facilities was limited. In this context, whiskey sometimes became more than just a drink. It served as a meal replacement and even a supposed cure-all. Imagine a group of cowboys on a cattle drive, their days filled with long hours under the scorching sun and dusty trails. At the end of a grueling day, they gather around a campfire, their stomachs rumbling. But instead of a hearty stew or a plate of beans, they reach for a bottle of whiskey. In the Wild West, whiskey was often consumed in place of a meal, particularly when food was scarce or time was of the essence. Its high alcohol content provided a temporary sense of fullness and warmth, masking the pangs of hunger and offering a quick source of calories. However, relying on whiskey as a meal replacement had its drawbacks. While it provided some energy, it lacked the essential nutrients needed for sustained health and well-being. Long-term reliance on whiskey could lead to malnutrition and other health problems. Beyond its role as a meal substitute, whiskey was also seen as a cure-all for various ailments. People used it to treat everything from colds and coughs to snake bites and gunshot wounds. While alcohol does have some antiseptic properties, its effectiveness as a medicine was often exaggerated. The practice of using whiskey as a meal and a cure-all highlights the resourcefulness and adaptability of those living in the Wild West. In a world where food and medical supplies were often scarce, people had to find ways to make do with what they had. However, it's important to remember that these practices were often born out of necessity rather than choice. The lack of access to proper nutrition and healthcare contributed to a high rate of illness and mortality in the Wild West. The story of whiskey's role in the Wild West serves as a reminder of the challenges faced by those who lived on the frontier. It also highlights the importance of access to nutritious food and proper medical care in promoting health and well-being. The next time you sit down to a well-balanced meal, take a moment to appreciate the abundance and variety of food we have available today, and remember the pioneers and cowboys of the Wild West who, despite facing hardship and deprivation, found ways to survive and persevere in a challenging environment. So, there you have it, a glimpse into the gritty, resourceful, and sometimes stomach-churning world of Wild West hygiene. While we might shudder at the thought of sharing bathwater or using a corn cob for toilet paper, these practices remind us of the ingenuity and resilience of those who came before us. Thanks for joining us on this journey back in time. We hope you've gained a new appreciation for modern conveniences and the importance of sanitation in our daily lives.